My name is Parastu Imami, and I'm the host of The Road to Success for Your Highly Sensitive Child. This podcast is about empowering parents of highly sensitive children to nurture their child's unique personality trait and create a path to success. Our podcast provides guidance, insights, and support to help you unlock your child's full potential, fostering resilience, confidence, and a bright future. If you're new to my podcast, please go back and listen to episodes 1 and 2 because they provide information on high sensitivity that all subsequent episodes will build upon. If you skip these episodes, you won't get as much out of this and all subsequent episodes. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com. Today's episode is about teaching your highly sensitive child to navigate the complexities of romantic relationships, which is crucial for their emotional well-being and personal growth. Let's talk about how to support your HSC in selecting a romantic partner. First, let's do a recap on what is a highly sensitive child. So highly sensitive children process emotions deeply, are highly empathetic, and are often more attuned to subtleties in their environment and relationships. This sensitivity can be a strength, particularly in romantic relationships, as it fosters empathy, understanding, and a deep connection. However, it also means they may be more susceptible to emotional overwhelm and hurt. Before I get into the following advice, I'm assuming that you have raised your child to have a healthy attachment style. If you're not familiar with attachment styles, please listen to my episode dated February 6, 2024. Here are some guiding principles to follow. Number 1, you want to model healthy relationships. You want to demonstrate healthy, respectful, and loving relationships in your own life. Children learn a lot from observing their parents' interactions. If you have marital issues, please do your best not to display them in front of your highly sensitive child because you are their role model. So if you and your spouse bicker a lot in front of your child would think this is how relationships are supposed to be. And this will become what they are familiar with. Remember that when we select a partner, we often select a partner that resembles what we are familiar with. So one of the parents is basically what most people choose, either a spouse that resembles their mom or a spouse that resembles their dad. So, for example, in my own life, my dad is a narcissist, and I married a narcissist because the behavior I saw in my husband was familiar to me. And since I didn't know any better, I chose a partner that was toxic to me, or I should say for me. I had to work a lot on myself to learn what a healthy relationship looks like and feels like. But this took me over 10 years to learn. I know this sounds crazy, but it does take this long to unlearn what you know and then rewire your brain to learn a new way of being. It takes a lot of time and effort and hard emotions that you have to face. You have the power to change all of this for your child by teaching them at a very young age what a healthy relationship looks like and feels like. At a young age, you don't have to teach them about romantic relationship, but it is still good to teach them about healthy relationships. But then, when they get to an age where they're going to start dating, before they get to that age, because it takes, you need to repeat yourself several times before it actually sinks in. So you want to start, at maybe, I don't know, a year in advance of when you think they're going to start dating. And you want to teach them about romantic relationships. And by the way, the first thing that you want to teach your child with respect to being in a romantic relationship is self-love. Because if they don't know how to love themselves, then they won't be able to really attract the right partner. So that you need to teach them, what does self-love look like and feel like, and what's the difference between loving yourself and being a selfish person. Sometimes people, really confuse these two concepts, and they're very vastly different from one another. So you want to, you want to distinguish the difference as well. And then number two is having an open communication. So foster an environment where your child feels comfortable discussing their feelings and experiences with you. Encourage open dialogue about relationships, emotions, and boundaries. So again, you don't have to wait for a romantic relationship. You can teach these skills, with any relationship, like friendships, relationships with their teachers, with your friends, with family members, because most relationships you will need to learn these basic skills anyway. Right? You need to be able to express yourself. You need to be able to know what you're feeling. You need to be able to set boundaries with the people around you. So these are not specific to a romantic relationship. So the things that are not specific to a romantic relationship, I encourage you to teach your child at a young age. Whenever you feel is appropriate. Every family is different, and every child is different, so only you as their parent would know what age that would be appropriate. And then teach emotional intelligence. So help your child develop emotional intelligence by teaching them to recognize, understand, and manage their emotions. This includes understanding how their sensitivity can both positively and negatively impact their relationship. I have episodes dedicated to teaching your child how to process their emotions, which is episode dated April 23rd, 2024, and how to teach your child to regulate their nervous system, which is episode dated February 13th, 2024. Both of these episodes are really important for teaching your child about emotional intelligence. So if you haven't listened to these episodes, I highly recommend that you go back and listen to them. Number four is teaching them how to set boundaries. What are boundaries? And boundaries, every person, again, is different. And my boundary could be substantially different than your boundary. So you just need to teach your child to learn what is important to them and what it is that they need to feel loved, understood, secure, safe. So these are all things that you really need to know in order to set your boundaries. And then once you've set your boundaries, you also need to explain that that's not enough, right? Setting your boundaries is not enough. You need to be able to also make sure that people are complying with your boundaries. And if they're not, then you need to take action. So it's not up to the other person to take action when they disrespect your boundaries. You, as the person who's being disrespected, need to take the action to correct that. And every situation is different, so you need to decipher what that is, what action you need to take. Sometimes we need to leave the room. Sometimes we need to let them know that, hey, this is not acceptable to me. You're disrespecting my boundaries, and if you do this again, I'm going to need to do X, Y, and Z. So, and then of course, with respect to boundaries, this is making sure that people are respectful towards you and treat you, the way you want to be treated. So this is important for your child, and not just to learn why the boundaries are, what the boundaries are, but why are they important? What will they gain by setting boundaries? And then number five is self worth, self love, and self respect. I really don't think that these three things can be separated from one another. I mean, they're separate and distinct, um, you know, uh, feelings, but they really go hand in hand. So you can't have one without the other. So emphasize the importance of self-worth and self-love and self-respect. Encourage your child to value themselves and seek partners who treat them with respect and kindness that they deserve. In order for your child to see their worth and love themselves, they need to have a healthy self-confidence. You have the power to help your child gain and nurture a healthy self-confidence by the way you treat them. Do you value them? Are you attuned to their needs? Do you encourage them to speak up and ask for what they need? When they speak up and ask for what they need, do you respond in a positive and nurturing way? If you can't meet their needs, do you take the time to explain why? These are all really important questions that you need to ask yourself as a parent, because unless you model this with your child, they're not going to know what it's like, what it feels like. They're not going to learn to have to have self-respect, self-love, confidence. All of this comes from you as the parent. So self-respect is also important to learn at a young age, because if you don't respect yourself, then chances are that others won't respect you either. So, teaching your child to respect themselves when it comes to being intimate with a partner, it's important to know what you want from a relationship and how you want to be treated. It's important to know if you're ready to get intimate with someone. A lot of teenagers get intimate with someone because everyone else is doing it, or because they feel like, oh, I'm going to lose this person if I don't get intimate with them. But it's more important that they learn to recognize that they need to be intimate with someone when they want to, when it feels good to them, and when they are ready. And it's not about other people. It's not about what your best friend is doing, or whether your boyfriend really wants to be intimate, so then you kind of give in because of that. No, you need to make sure that you do that you get intimate with someone because of your own needs and wants and desires, and what your values are, what is important to you, and making sure that you yourself are wanting to do this and you're not doing it for any other reason. And then let's talk about practical steps for teaching romantic partner selection. So, the first thing that I advise is that you teach your child how to identify their core values. So, what's important to them? What do they want in a relationship? So, I would have them write a list of the core values that they believe in and that they would want to have in a partner. So this could be like honesty, kindness, respect, empathy, intelligence, and so on. And then you want to discuss with them why these values are important and how they align with their needs as a highly sensitive person. For example, highly sensitive people in general really need to be with someone who's honest. Dishonesty is like, it hurts a highly sensitive person to their core. And because they really like, first of all, of course, everybody wants the honest person and they don't like dishonesty. But to a highly sensitive person, it just hurts so much deeper when they're with someone who's dishonest with them. And right away, that dishonesty will break the trust. And it's hard for a highly sensitive person to come back from that. So it's important that they recognize who's going to be an honest person, who's going to be able to, stand by their words and all of that. And then number two is recognizing red flags. I didn't learn about red flags until I was, until I saw them. Not that I didn't see them, but I didn't really learn to listen to them until I went through a divorce. And then when I was going back and realizing, where I made the mistakes, that's when I was like, okay, yeah, I saw the red flags, but I didn't do anything about them. So it's not just about seeing the red flags. Of course, I didn't know at the time that those would be, those were red flags. And I just didn't have enough experience in relationships. And also, I didn't have a good role model to follow honestly, in any of the marriages that I was seeing around me. So, so it's important that you educate your child to what are, not just identifying the red flags, but then what you do once you identify those red flags, such as manipulation, disrespect, lack of empathy, like we talked about, dishonesty, and so on. And then you want to, role play with your child, different various scenarios that they may encounter these red flags, so that they can see, what it looks like, what it sounds like. And then also, if you work with them to listen to their intuition can guide them as well. So really, highly sensitive children have a very high level of intuition, but if you foster that, then they will listen to their intuition. It's not enough to just have the intuition. We need to listen to the intuition. Then number three is develop assertiveness. So this is teaching your child, to express their needs and boundaries very clearly and confidently. So you can practice by encouraging them to learn these skills in various situations, not just in romantic ones, but building confidence through practice with you, with their girlfriends, with family members, and so on. And then encourage independence. It's important for them to know that in a relationship, once you're in a relationship, doesn't mean that you lose yourself. You need to be able to have your own life. You need to be able to make your own self happy and not rely on somebody else to, make you happy, or to be there with you all the time and all of that. So you need to have your own personal interests that that take up your time, so that you're not expecting your romantic partner to be there with you for, during all your free time, or most of your free time. So, and then also, it's really amazing for your child to start learning at a young age what their hobbies are, what makes them happy. What is it? Instruments? Is it playing music? Is it singing? What is it? Is it playing sports? It's good to learn those things early on, so that you can start practicing them and get really good at them too. And then self-reliance also is very important. Like I said, you want to make sure that they don't rely solely on their partner for happiness or for validating them, that they can do these things for themselves. A lot of people think, oh, this person needs to make me happy. They don't make me happy. But, in reality, nobody is responsible to make you happy. Nobody is responsible for validating you. You yourself need to make yourself happy, and you yourself need to validate yourself. You don't need anybody else to validate you. And then number 5 is healthy relationship indicators. So positive signs are, is the person that you're in a partnership with respectful towards you? Do they support your activities that you like doing, or your hobbies, or whatever it is that you need their support with? Do they support you in that? Do they share your values with you? How do they treat others when you're in their company? Are they kind to others, especially others that they don't gain anything from? How are they with those people? Do they still respect those people? And that's very important. And then you can reflect on how their partner makes them feel. Do they feel valued? Do they feel respected? Do they feel supported? Do they feel loved? Do they feel cared for? Do they feel taken care of? For example, with in my own life, it's really important for me to be with a man who is in his masculine energy, because I need to feel supported, cared for. I need a man that I know that I can rely on. So those things are super important to me. So you need to also talk about these things with your child. What's important to them? What makes them feel safe and secure in a relationship? So I read somewhere the description of various husbands that I found to be hilarious. One of them, for example, was a bachelor husband. Another one was an acidic husband, and so on. It was a very, very funny read. And I found it to be very, very correct and on point. So I'm going to read the description of a caring husband, because this is the one that obviously you want to teach your child about. So, a caring husband is caring and loving. He provides material and emotional needs and makes time for family. He guides home. He guides home spirituality. Very responsible, and treats wife as a partner and helper. So this is exactly what I was referring to when I said I'm looking for a masculine man, a man who's in his masculine energy, so that I could be in my feminine energy. So that means that I'm looking for a partner who's going to be giving me financially and emotionally, not because I can't afford it myself, not because I don't make my own money, but because that's how I feel secure in my relationship, and that's how I can be feminine in my relationship. A lot of times, unfortunately, I was more in my masculine when I was in my previous relationship, my previous marriage. For example, I was the breadwinner, and I didn't feel good about that. And it wasn't that I needed the money, or that I was trying to take my husband's money. It was nothing to do with money. It was just the fact that I would like to be in my feminine energy, and the feminine energy is receiving, whereas the masculine energy is giving. So if you can think about it also like the sun and the moon. The sun is a masculine energy. It lights up. It gives you warmth. It gives you comfort. The moon, on the other hand, lights up in a different way. It lights your darkness. It gives you light during darkness so that you could see. So feminine's energy is not about giving. It's more about receiving, and it's receiving. And the way that they give back is through making the home homey. I remember when I was married, before I got married to my husband, my sister-in-law came to our home, and I had just moved in, or maybe I hadn't even moved in with him, and I had made our home very warm and comforting and inviting. And so when she came over, it was the first time she came over, after I had been with my husband. We were not married yet, we were just dating. And she said to me, "Wow, it's incredible what a difference a woman makes to a home." And I said, what do you mean by that? And she said, "This home was never a home until you entered it." And I was like, wow, what a beautiful thing to say to someone. And at that moment, I realized what she's talking about, because she's right. I brought the energy in the house that made the house go from a house to a home. And when people came over to our home, they loved being there. They felt very happy, and they felt comfortable, and they felt like they were in their own home. So that's the type of energy that a woman brings. And that's why it's important for me to be in my feminine energy. So when you're teaching your child, you need to have them figure out what's important to them. Do they want, if they're a girl, do they want to be in their feminine energy, or are they okay being in their masculine energy? Um, and let's see, what else do I have to say? Oh yeah, so I'm just looking at my notes, and one of the things I really wish my parents would have taught me about relationships, and I wouldn't have to learn through trial and error, because I quickly learned after my divorce that I wasn't on the right path of selecting my life partner. And I didn't know what to look for. I didn't know what aspects of a man would be important to me, and what aspects of a romantic relationship would um, lead to a lasting and happy marriage. And so it took me a long time to learn these things. I took classes, I read books, I went to workshops, and now, after years and years of studying, I finally get it. I finally get what I should be looking for, and what would make a relationship or a marriage, if I decide to get married again, what would make it last, and what would make it successful, and what would make it um, a beautiful marriage, a happy marriage. But you, as a parent, have the power to teach your child these things, so that they don't have to go through the pain that I went through. They don't have to go through trial and error, and reading numerous books, and going to classes and workshops, because it's not really that difficult. If you have the right guidance from an early age, you're practicing in your teenage years, you're practicing in your college years. So by the time you're ready to be in a committed relationship, you've had a lot of practice with information that you got from your caregivers. So you really, as parents, have a lot of power, and if you choose to, you can really make your child's life a lot easier. And then number 6 is teaching them how to handle rejection and a heartbreak. Because for highly sensitive people, remember that they feel very deeply. So when they go through a breakup, it's really, really brutal for them. A heartbreak for a highly sensitive person is 10 times harder than a non-highly sensitive person. So you need to teach them, how do they express their feelings? How do they talk about their feelings? How do they go through rejection or heartbreak? These are really good things to be teaching them, so that they know how to cope, so that you can teach them coping mechanisms, like how do you deal with emotional pain? How do you, what kind of techniques can you use? For example, you can use journaling to let all your emotions out, or you can talk to a friend if you don't like journaling, for example, and then you can engage in creative activities to help you release those emotions that you're feeling. Number 7 is understanding the various phases of a relationship, and knowing how to move from one to the other. So I know there are many, many different research that has been done, but the one that I rely on is the 5 phases of a relationship, which is The first one is a honeymoon phase, which is from the first date until approximately the first year. This is the initial stage, where you have very intense emotions, you have very strong feelings, and a deep connection with your partner. And then the second phase is a power struggle phase. It could last from year 1 to 2. And this is where your relationship evolves. Couples may encounter conflicts and power struggles. They are going to test their communication and conflict resolution skills. And this is where the ego is driving everything in this phase. So, according to a study published in the Journal of Marriage and Family, approximately 25% of married couples report experiencing chronic power struggles, leading to increased conflict and decreased relationship satisfaction. And many people don't know how to get this past the second phase, because again, this second phase is driven by the ego. And unfortunately, if you let your ego drive things, you won't be happy in a relationship with a romantic partner or any other relationship. Ego is really the thing that breaks relationships. So the next phase is called the stability phase, and this is the phase that lasts from year 2 to 5. And so once the power struggle subsides, the relationship enters a period of stability where couples develop routines, they learn how to compromise, and they build a sense of trust and security. Speaking of compromise, the one thing that I highly recommend that you teach your child is what is a healthy compromise. Because I noticed that a lot of people, especially women, tend to be in the unhealthy compromise. And what do I mean by that? That means that I compromise myself, my needs, my well-being. Those are, and my peace, especially my peace or my health. Those are things that you don't want to compromise on. Yes, compromise is amazing and it's necessary for a relationship, especially a happy relationship. But I've seen way too many women compromise their peace or compromise their health in order to not be in conflict with their partner. And that's not a good compromise. That is not actually compromise. That's being a murderer. So you don't want to do that. And then the next phase, the fourth phase, is the growth phase. In this stage, couples refine their relationship. They're addressing challenges and they're nurturing personal growth. So in my mind, this is the most beautiful phase, because you've gone through the challenging phases of, the ego phase. You've passed that, hopefully, and you went into the stability phase. And that stability phase is still has a little bit of struggling going on with it as you're learning and growing and learning how to compromise and build security and trust in your relationship. And then when the growth phase comes, you have that down. So now it's not that you don't have conflict, but you understand how to manage those conflicts. And you also understand how to take proactive measures to avoid having those conflicts, especially those conflicts that you've noticed happen over and over again. So I love being in the growth phase of a relationship. I think it's really beautiful, and it has its own challenges, but it tends to be where you each grow as individuals and grow in partnership with one another. And that's when the phase where it's really nurturing. And then the fifth phase, it's a possibility. It's not necessarily the case for every relationship, but it is possible that there is a fifth phase, and that's the decline phase. So eventually, in this phase, eventually the relationship may decline and may die off. So you need to teach your child, if they get into this phase of a relationship, how do they deal with it? How do they disconnect from the experience? How do they uh, end their relationship in a healthy way? And all of that goes with breaking up from a relationship. And then, of course, number 8 is building a support network. So that could be building friendships that encourage, that help you with your relationships, and um, basically, give you good advice, and friends that are able to support you and nurture you and help you while you're going, while you are in a romantic relationship. So someone that you can trust to be able to say whatever it is that you're going through, knowing that this person is not going to judge you, that this person is not going to be jealous of you, that this person is going to really have your best interest in mind. And if you don't have that type of friendship yet, then you want to rely on trusted adults in your life. So help your child if they don't feel comfortable talking to you. Hopefully they do. But if they don't, then help them identify trusted adults like an aunt or an uncle. That way they have support if they need it. And then I would encourage you to discuss like different perspectives of a relationship, making sure that your child, of course, highly sensitive children already for the most part have a very high empathy level. But if they don't, you want to teach them to consider, their partner's perspective and feelings, and fostering empathy and mutual understanding when they're in a relationship. And then teach them about conflict resolution. So discuss healthy and conflict resolution techniques, emphasizing the importance of listening and compromising, and really having respect for your partner. So when your partner is talking, you don't want to be interrupting them, and because you all of a sudden remember a point that is important to you. You need to write that point down, wait for your partner to be done speaking, and then you can bring up your point. So just making sure that your child also learns about conflict resolution is important. And then respecting individual differences. It's important for your child to know that everybody is different. If they're dating someone, that person is raised differently. They come from a different family. They have different values. They maybe, different values than you in some ways. Of course, hopefully you have common values, but there could be having different ways of being brought up. For example, in my life, birthdays are very important. We celebrate them, we make a big deal out of them, and it's very important in our family. Whereas my husband's family, they didn't celebrate birthdays. They didn't even know each other's birthdays. For the most part, I mean, maybe they knew one person's birthday in their family, but it wasn't like our family that birthdays were so important, and we would plan it ahead and think about what we're going to do, how we're going to get together, where we're going to get together. All of that did not exist in their family. So when he didn't, make a big deal out of my birthday, it was very, very disappointing to me and hurtful to me. But then when I realized that, oh, well, this is the norm for him, and it's not the norm for me. So I would have a conversation with him to help him understand that it's important to me. So, that even if he doesn't know how, he should make an effort to at least, show that he's trying to show that he's trying to meet my needs when it comes to birthdays and other and celebrations as well. It wasn't just birthdays that wasn't important to their family. Pretty much everything was, those types of celebrations were not important. Birthdays, anniversaries, um, Valentine's Day, those things were not at all important to their family. So we had to really sit down and talk about it. And then acceptance. Reinforce the idea that it's okay to walk away from a relationship that doesn't feel right, even if the other person is kind and good, but it's not a good fit for your child. Then they need to be able to accept that and move on, and do that in a respectful and kind way. So, final thoughts. As parents, your role is to guide, support, and empower your highly sensitive child in their journey towards forming healthy romantic relationships. By fostering open communication, teaching essential skills, and providing a loving and supportive environment, you can help your child navigate the complexities of romantic relationships with confidence and self assurance. Remember, every child is unique and there's no one size fits all approach. Tailor your guidance to your child's specific needs and temperament, and be patient as they learn and grow. Encourage them to trust their instincts and to seek relationships that honor their sensitivity and contribute positively to their overall well being. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to remind you that you have the power to create a bright and successful future for your highly sensitive child. Embrace their uniqueness, nurture their strengths, and provide them with the love and support they need. Together, we can pave a path to success that aligns with their sensitivity. Thank you for joining us today, and remember, you're not alone on this journey. We'll be here with more insights and inspiration in our next episode. Until then, keep believing in your child's potential because they truly are extraordinary. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and stay committed to setting your child up for success in life. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com.